Hi, Arshdeep. Thank you so much for taking out time for this interview. For the viewers, may we request you to please share your journey, your story in your own words?
Yeah, sure. So I did my bachelor's in computer science from Manipal Institute of Technology. And after that, I had the chance to work at BlackRock in Gurgaon as a software developer. And after some time there, I realized that I would want to gain some more skills, at least in terms of my interactions with the people there who were working. I wanted to understand how it would be more efficient for me to be able to better manage tasks and see how projects are. So I decided to pursue a master's in management because I didn't have the experience to get an MBA from a college that might be the one that I want to get into.
Right.
And I didn't go for masters in a specific topic because I didn't have any specific research field that I was really passionate about, that I knew that I could do well in after a job. So I decided to do a master's in management. And the first step to that was giving the GMAT. And that's where my journey of preparing for the GMAT and for the colleges began.
All right. Okay. So, in your opinion, what are a few factors or actions you took that made all the difference?
I think the first step would be having a good plan would be the first step
Right.
in terms of how you want to structure your studies and your work. And that plan should also include the kind of people you want to be with, the kind of teachers who you want to learn from, or the coaches that you want to have. I
Right.
think the plan is going to be the most important thing.
Yeah, that is true. So, with the benefit of hindsight, what are a few mistakes you believe you committed in the process?
A few mistakes. There are no major mistakes that come to my mind because I am of the opinion that wherever we are, we have only learnings. But maybe some things that could have made things more efficient. Maybe not spending too much time on seeing what the weaknesses are and spending more time on those. For instance, not getting too dogmatic on it's a natural tendency to continue doing those things, but maybe break out of your comfort zone a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and challenge yourself, not too much, otherwise you would tend to get discouraged, but there's a thin line that you would want to cross and continue being in that zone. So I think that would be an efficiency zone that you would want to be in. Maybe that would always be much more beneficial.
Absolutely. So, going back to your GMAT preparation phase, what were the main resources that you used, and what advice will you give to the future GMAT aspirants?
For my GMAT prep, I decided to enroll for a coaching institute near my house. So I knew that I wasn't the kind of guy who would be able to self-study in a sustained place with a good strategy. So just to get an idea of what the exam is about and the kind of things that we would need to focus on, I decided to go for a classroom-based learning experience.
All right.
And I was also able to get in touch with someone who had cracked the GMAT well, and they recommended me Experts Global for the mocks, in the sense that their mocks were very close to how the GMAT exam is, because we can only estimate what the questions are going to be.
Right.
And if there is any source that allows us to get a good estimate, and those were a few of my resources.
All right.
And of course, the Expert Global video series by the teacher at Experts Global, whatever explanations that he gives, those are really. The good part about those tests is that you're really able to see the concepts that drive questions, and sir is able to explain those concepts in a very simple way. So those simple techniques are capable of guiding you through a varied set of questions.
Yeah.
So I think tests are as good as help they give in helping you
Right.
better from about your errors, and the Experts Global video series was also pretty good.
All right. Okay. It's good to know that it was so helpful to you. So, in your opinion, what should be the frequency of mock tests, and how many mock tests should an aspirant take?
I think that would be very individualized approach that each aspirant should take. I think the first step would involve seeing where you stand through a specific mock test. And once you know what the gap is where you stand and where your goal is, on that basis, one mock test every time you feel you've mastered a new concept would be a good idea.
All right.
So if a person is at maybe 540 and he's aiming for a 700,
Mm-hmm.
and if he has 3 months to prepare, Then if he is able to learn a new concept every week or every 2 weeks, then a mock test every week or every 2 weeks would be optimal. Because if you go too much higher than that, then you are maybe just testing skills that you already know you're good at. And
Right.
if you're going too low, you might miss out seeing what you are missing. So it's very individual based, but I would say plan it in a way that reflects your baseline and your goal.
Right. Absolutely. So, what would you like to say about your experience and learnings from managing the application timelines?
I think the application timelines that I had, I just tried to make sure that I'd be able to get in for the closest timeline that I had. For me, I think timeline after my GMAT was the second round. So while I was preparing for the GMAT, I think I had already started my applications as well,
All right.
maybe 2 months into the prep. So that way I was confident that if I was getting a good GMAT score, I'd be able to submit my application right then. So try to look for the closest application timeline and see which is your weaker point. If GMAT's your weaker point, put your application timeline around the GMAT date. If the application's your weaker point, put your GMAT date around the application date so that you are not hurried by the slower thing. But for me, both of those things were equally challenging, so I tried to put them at the same level.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, would you like to describe your interview experience with the school?
Yeah, sure. So for my school, it's ESSEC Business School. I was selected after the first application for an interview round, and that was an in-person interview for which I had to travel to Mumbai. And the interview was about getting to know me as a person, and they asked about the experiences that I had and the goals that I had for the future after masters and how ESSEC would be able to fit in those goals.
All
So
right.
that was the general idea of the interview.
Okay, that's interesting. So, can you tell us more about your master's experience?
Sure. So my master's is a 3-year master's. It's a 2 to 3 year master's, and I think I would be spending 3 years on it.
Okay.
And my school per se gives a lot of power to the students to decide their schedules. And we all have an opportunity to work and study at the same time. For instance,
Right.
I am doing an apprentissage, which allows me to study for a few days at ESSEC and work at the company for a few days. So
Okay.
that way you're also able to learn on the job and apply some new learnings from your school on the job.
Right.
That is something very interesting. There's a varied list of courses that we have and tracks that we can pursue. I am personally taking up courses around economics and a little bit around economics. So that's the experience so far.
Okay, that's really nice and it's quite unique as well.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us more about job search experience during the masters? Like, what tips will you give to the future candidates regarding that?
Sure. The job search, normally people here start searching for jobs around a few months before they graduate, probably 3 months or 4 months.
Hmm.
And the ESSEC brand is the strongest in France. So it's much less difficult to get jobs here in France than in countries outside. And the skills that they look for mostly are skills that you can showcase from your past experiences if possible, or non-technical skills like language skills are very important here, especially in France. It's always a good addition to have the French language as a skill. So those 2 or 3 factors really differentiate us as students at ESSEC. And any other thing that I would like to suggest to the students would be to just taking your goal and your current standing into account. I think seeing the right goal would be the most important, as you can't apply for all kinds of jobs.
Right.
Try to see the best kind of job that you would be suited for based on your past experience, based on your current studies, and based on what you would want to do in the future.
Okay. I'm sure your suggestions going to be very helpful to a lot of
I hope so
students.
too.
So, according to you, what are a few common mistakes that all the GMAT aspirants must avoid?
Sure. I think maybe switching too much from one resource to another. If there is some resource that is not helping them, maybe seek help from a person, but don't skip out on the resource as such,
All right.
as there's a certain fixed cost of energy that you would need to spend on the other resource. And if you keep switching resources, you keep losing out the time that you need to spend to get accustomed to a resource. So you decide to go with a certain prep institute or a certain exam set, stick to it, and try to not be too fixated or obsessive about getting everything from one thing.
All right. So, what would be your final message or suggestion to all the viewers watching this video?
I'm assuming that the viewers watching this video are preparing for the GMAT. It's a good test in the sense that it filters out those people who are able to see the assumption in the critical reasoning. And that is, critical reasoning is one strong aspect that would be helpful in all areas of life, not just managerial. So that way, I feel it's a good test. Even the reading comprehension allows you to read a lot of cases and get a general idea of how things are. In preparing for the test, you will gain skills that you may not see right away, but those would be subconsciously added to your mental arsenal. So it's a good test to prepare for, unlike a lot of other tests that you may feel you are preparing for, but not really gaining a lot from it. So continue striving for the test, achieve your goals that you set for. It's a little frustrating when you are not able to understand something. Try and reach out for help as soon as possible. For me personally, I think I would say lower your threshold of trying too hard yourself if you are trying too hard, and maybe increase the threshold if you're not. But try to find the zone where you would be comfortable enough and still keep moving. I think that would be something that I would ask everyone to maybe take from this.
That's really inspiring. And thank you so much for sharing your entire journey with us. We
Sure.
really look forward to knowing more about your experiences in the near future as well. So, thank you
Sure.
for your time, Arshdeep.
Take care.